this session is a full body session. It's going to be perfect for in the morning once you got out of bed, if you're feeling a little bit stiff or tight, or you just need something to really wake your body up. We're going to start on the floor, and we're going to stay on the floor for the entire session. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so we're coming into our all fours position. We're going to take our knees nice and wide, popping our feet together and dropping our bottom back towards our heels, moving into child's pose position, but with a wide knee stance and allowing our torso to come down towards the mat. And here, we're just going to slowly move from side to side. It might be quite hard to motivate yourself to move, but try and do so. So trying to wake ourselves up for 3, for 2, for 1. Slowly walking those hands up towards where your thighs are, keeping those knees nice and wide. We're just going to roll those shoulders. So I'm going to place my hands on top of my thighs. I'm going to roll my shoulders, squeezing my shoulder blades together as I roll them back, dropping them down, and then separating my shoulder blades as I roll them forwards. Keeping my head and my neck nice and soft. Try not to hold too much tension there. And then I'm going to switch sides, or just go around the other way. Do a couple of movements like that. In this wide leg position, I'm just going to take both my hands towards my left thigh, and I'm just going to twist my torso around towards the left hand side of the room for 3, for 2, for 1, keeping those shoulders nice and low, coming back to center. If you need to sort of roll your shoulders out a little bit in between, do so. Then taking both your hands around towards the right hand side of the body. You can of course do this on a chair with your feet below you for 3. Keep breathing for 2, for 1. Coming back to center, loosening the shoulders, maybe moving that head from side to side, and then walking those hands out back in front of you. Dropping your torso down towards the mat, but this time we're just going to link our elbows, link our hands onto our elbows, and then just again, just move from side to side. 3, for 2, for 1. From here, I'm going to place my hands either side or underneath my shoulders, bring my knees hip width apart, and then walk my hands out in front of me, keeping my bottom nice and tall, elbows and forearms on the mat. I'm slowly going to try and draw my head down towards the floor. For 3, keeping that lower part of the body fixed. For 2, for 1. I'm going to take my head and my torso all the way down towards the mat, or as close as I can get to. You can notice here that I'm resting my head on my forearms, really sticking that bottom up nice and tall, creating a little bit of extension in the spine. Depending on how you're feeling, you might want to go a bit deeper into this position, maybe taking your chin down towards the mat, or if you're feeling a little bit sensitive in the lower back, just stay here if it's comfortable. For 3, for 2, for 1. Taking your hands out in front of you now, dropping that head towards the mat. Now trying to depress those shoulders into your torso, so really draw them downwards. For 3, for 2, for 1. Taking your right hand underneath your left armpit, reaching through, resting that right arm and right shoulder onto the mat. And then if you want to be a little bit more active here, you're just going to walk that left hand around the top of your head. Take your gaze and twist your torso up towards the ceiling for 3, for 2, for 1. Slowly taking your gaze and your armpit down towards the mat. Releasing that right hand, letting it meet the left hand at the top of the mat. Coming back into this nice extended position in the spine. And then driving that left hand down underneath that right armpit. And again, either staying here or walking that right hand around the top of the head and holding for 3. Keep breathing for 2, for 1. Slowly releasing that hand, releasing that armpit down towards the mat, taking both hands out in front of you. This time, just dropping your bottom back onto your heels. You'll notice here that your spine goes into a little bit of flexion, so it's slightly rounded. Again, if you're really sore here and you've got a sore lower back, try not to overstretch the area. Find a comfortable position and just stay in that position. Take your hands out in front of you now. We're just going to walk them around towards the left-hand side of the room. Nice and slowly. We're not going to stay here. Once we've got as far around as we can get to, we're going to move straight back to the center, and then we're going to move the other way. So really nice little movements here. Once you've got as far as you can round to the right, then walk those hands back to the center. Good. From here, we're going to slide our hands back, lift our torsos, and come into that 4-point position once again. And we're going to do a few cat-cows. So remember here, actively pushing away from the mat, really engaging that top half of the body. And then as you inhale, lifting your tailbone, lifting your chin, lifting your chest, taking your gaze out in front of you. And then as you exhale, slowly rounding that back, tucking that tailbone, tucking that chin, again pushing away from the floor, push the tops of the feet into the floor. 2, 1, slowly transitioning. Maybe getting a little bit deeper every time if that's comfortable. Slowly moving all the way through. And last time before we do some slightly different exercises here. Using your exhale as you transition into cat. Good. Finding a nice neutral position. And from here, you're going to place your right knee in the center of the mat, your right hand in the center of the mat, and take your left foot back behind you. So really pushing your heel away from the body. We're just going to rock back and forth for 3, for 2, for 1. Going to flick this right leg out behind you, and then we're slowly going to open up our torso and our hand up towards the side or the ceiling for 3, for 2, for 1. Either keeping that left hand up or taking that left hand behind your back, bending the elbows if you've got a pair of handcuffs on, and then twisting your torso just a little bit further round for 2, for 1. Slowly releasing all the way down towards the mat. Bring your left knee in, maybe sitting back onto your feet and just rolling those shoulders, and then coming back into that all fours position. So taking your left hand to the center of the mat, your left knee to the center of the mat, taking that right foot back, driving that heel all the way back to the back of the room. From here, we're just going to pulse for 3, 2, 1. We're going to flick that left leg out or the left foot out for a bit of stability, and then slowly transition and coming into a variation of a side plank. So from here, you can see that I'm really lifting up my hips. Imagine I've got a rope around my hips here. It's really pushing me up towards the ceiling. Taking my gaze up if that's comfortable for 3, for 2, for 1. Either staying here or taking that hand behind my lower back and then twisting my torso a little bit further around, but just keep breathing here for 3, for 2, for 1. Slowly transitioning all the way around. Tucking your toes now, really pushing those toes into the mat, walking those hands back and sitting on the back of your heels. Usually, or I'm exactly like this, my heels will try and float outwards. I'm going to try and keep my heels nice and vertical, my feet nice and vertical, and really allow that pressure to go through my toes. Coming on to sort of into an upright kneeling position, I'm going to take my right foot out in front of me. I'm just going to slowly allow my body to sink over that right foot. Feeling a nice stretch down the quad and the hip flexor. And we're just going to pulse for 3, for 2, for 1. Here I'm just going to draw a couple of big circles with that right knee. So imagine that knee is going all the way around that right foot. So that's 1, 2. And for the third one, just reverse it. 3. Good. Pushing back into a variation of half split, so lengthening out that right leg. You might want to take your hands down towards the floor. You might want to hold on to the wall here. We're not going to stay here for too long. We're just going to bend that knee and drive back for 3, 2, 1. Good. From here, we're going to have our hands either side the front of that foot. I'm going to heel toe my foot towards my left hand. So my right foot towards my left hand, and then draw that foot back a little bit and come into a pigeon position. So allowing that left leg to drop behind you. I've got my hand out in front of me, holding me nice and tall, but you can, of course, come onto your elbows. And again, we're not going to stay here for too long. For 3, for 2, for 1. Good. From here, I'm going to place my hands back down onto the mat, lengthen out those arms, tuck my back toes, and just come back into my lunge position with my left knee dropped. I'm going to push back. I'm going to switch over to the side, push my bottom back a little bit, so stretching out the inside of my thigh, my adductor. And then I'm going to switch sides. So driving, having my left foot behind me, taking my right foot out in front of me, dropping that right foot. So we're in a nice upright position. We're going to push forwards. Notice I've got my back toes tucked. If that's really uncomfortable, just release those. For 3, for 2, for 1. We're going to make a couple of big circles. So with this front knee. So for 1, remember on the third one to change directions. For 2, and then change directions for the third one. For 3. Good. So from here, I'm just going to push back onto my heels, maybe holding the floor if that's comfortable. And I'm just going to rock back and forth for 3, for 2, for 1. Good. Taking my hands down either side of that front foot, heel toeing that front foot to my right thigh, and then coming down into a nice pigeon position. Again, doing what you want with your arms, trying to level off your hips as much as possible, feeling a nice stretch down the glutes, and just moving around. For 3, for 2, for 1. Good. Coming back onto those hands, tucking those back toe, coming back into your lunge, and then moving your hands around and coming into a nice final side stretch. And again, I'm just moving back and forth for 3, for 2, for 1. Good. Last little bit. Bring both your knees together. I'll do it from a side profile so you can see. Bring both your knees together. Tuck your toes. Walk your hands back so you're into your squat position. You might want to have your heels off the ground if that's much more accessible. You might not want to do this last little bit. It's up to you. But if you can, coming back all the way onto the soles of your foot and then slowly lifting your bottom first, lifting up, dropping that torso, and then linking those arms, keeping that chin in towards the chest, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae, nice and slowly, keeping those shoulders and that head nice and low, releasing those hands, rolling those shoulders, moving that neck from side to side, nice and controlled, nice and slowly, and then finishing up. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.